Zac Taylor and Duke Tobin have more job security than we even thought. We'll break down why now.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, Bengals fans, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network in the land. He's James Rapien, I'm Jake Liscow, and we have you covered here on Locked On Bengals every day, and we have since 2016. That goes through, you can count them on two fingers, two head coaches in the Cincinnati Bengals' long history, and that appears to be how it will remain at least for 2026. A huge report from Paul Dehner Jr. on Tuesday outlining an extension that no one knew Zac Taylor received. And that is the crux of this episode. We talk about the future for Zac Taylor, this coaching staff, Duke Tobin, the front office structure for a team that has always been loath to change and appears to be ready to continue that unsavory history of being slow and incremental in every change they make. Today's episode of Locked On Bengals is sponsored by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. And as we welcome back the everydayers, the diehards, those of you who make Locked On Bengals your first listen, I woke up to this news, James. I'm out on the West Coast on Tuesday morning. I wake up and I see a bunch of people talking about Zac Taylor 2 years. And I'm sitting there like, did he get an extension? No, not this year. 3 years ago, after the AFC Championship game, Zac was extended again, got an extra year tacked on. His deal was redone after an AFC Championship appearance, the year after a Super Bowl appearance, and somehow it was kept secret for all these years. We did not know. Zac actually has 2 years left on his deal, and my reaction is essentially that time is a flat circle. The Bengals are doing as the Bengals have done.
No, they're not. They're doing the thing they've never done ever. They've never done this. They've never been proactive like this. They're idiots is what they are. Because what they did is they said, all right, Zac Taylor, your job is in danger. And he's on record saying how he felt that way midway through the 2021 season. And they end up in the Super Bowl and they all sign extensions and everything's great. And they should have gotten extensions. They got to the Super Bowl. But when have the Bengals extended an extension that didn't need to be extended? It's crazy to me. And I get it. It's the best 2 year run in franchise history. Like 2021 was awesome. They followed that up after a rough start to 2022 by winning 10 straight. Better send those refunds. They go to Buffalo and they kick the crap out of the Bills after winning another playoff game at home with the Hubbard yard dash, the fumble in the jungle, whatever you want to say, against the Ravens. And it really felt like they were on their way to back-to-back Super Bowls. I get it. I understand. I remember those moments, as do you. But the Bengals never do this. They never say, oh, man, you've done such a good job 1 year into a deal. We're going to re-up it. We're going to I mean, Trey Hendrickson's been asking for this for since he got to town. And it hasn't happened. Joe Burrow, did they give him an extension after what he did in 2024 when he was awesome? No, they didn't, did they? Even though he got that extension in 23. It's wild to me, and it's really surprising. So I get why you said, yeah, this is what they do, because you're right. They are loyal to a fault with coaches, and we've seen that. But this is wild because they just didn't have to do it. And it almost makes me wonder, did someone come calling for Zac in the college ranks in 2022? Was there another offer out there? I looked up the Oklahoma job. He's from Norman, Oklahoma. I looked up the Oklahoma job just to make sure. That was filled by Brett Venables in December 2021. So I don't think it would have been then, because they were going on their run at that point. That's the year where they go up to Cleveland on Halloween, lose, and we're left wondering, hey, are they actually good? And then they went out in November, went out in December, and get rolling into the playoffs. So I don't think it was that. But was there something? Because it just seems so ridiculous certainly now, after 3 straight years of missing the playoffs, I think it also explains why Zac Taylor does feel pretty comfortable in his comments and in blocking out all of the noise. A contract through 2027 will certainly do that.
Yeah, I think the path, you're right. The path to get here is different. This is not something they've
Wild.
done. It's a different way to get to the point that they've always been at in the past. They hold on to coaches multiple years longer than seems like a rational, logical thing to do. Multiple years, not just a year. They get past the point of like the question that you asked somewhere earlier this week, which is, does Zac Taylor give you the best chance?
Yeah.
Not just
Yes.
as I think you wrote this, not just a chance, the best chance.
Mhm.
Super Bowl. Great question. The Bengals don't ask that question, man. They just don't. They got themselves into another situation where, with 2 years left on a deal, with their history with Marvin Lewis, which we're going to talk about a little bit in this episode because it's a little bit relevant to the different situation we find ourselves in today than we thought we were in with Zac Taylor and his remaining years on this deal. They get to this point where we're now overdue. That they will be overdue if Zac Taylor remains the head coach of the team in 2026, which looks more than likely with 2 years left on his deal. Because the Bengals, for all of the things that they have changed, aren't going to want to pay an entire coaching staff for 2 years to not coach for them. And I would assume Al Golden and Dan Pitcher's contracts are in line with Zac Taylor's contract, and probably some of these position coaches got a multi-year deal in some spots. It's just not something that seems like it would be in their DNA to do. And that's why it's such a C-level change, learning that Zach's contract has a year that we did not know that it had until today.
Yeah, it's honestly, I like Zach. And that's why I framed the question the way I did. And that's what I thought today's show was going to be. I think you did too. Is like, all right, 1 year left. Shout out to Paul Dehner Jr. for getting this, but like 1 year left. As of today, like when I woke up this morning, this was before I read Paul's report, I thought Zach was still back, to be clear. But I thought it was
we had
like in
multiple
question.
people asking in our Locked On Bengals Insider, like, hey, who do you think's more likely to be gone, Zach or Duke? And I'm like, man, I don't have a good feel for either of those right now. Like during the game, I was thinking about Todd Monken and potentially being a head coach. It's like, I'm taking Todd Monken off the list that I don't think I actually need anymore. That was during the game on Sunday when they were getting shut out. I was like, you know what? I'm not sure I need that list of head coaching candidates. During the game, I started feeling that, like not started feeling that, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, you were asked about it and you were like, I don't know. And that's why the only thing I could think of is maybe another opportunity arose and he used that. Other than that, because that's really how you get raises. That's how we all get raises in our jobs, is you get offers from other jobs and you're willing to take them and you do it that way. Like maybe that happened.
Maybe
if that
there
didn't
was
happen,
some weird like automatic extension that triggered
Yeah.
because he reached another AFC championship. I don't know.
maybe.
Like I'm speculating.
Maybe if I win double-digit games and we say better send those refunds 22 times in Buffalo, then it works. Like then it kicks in. Like maybe that's it. If we say refunds 22 times after a win in Buffalo, then you don't get a refund on that 2027 contract year. Like who knows what it was, right? But it's wild because I think there's a very good argument, and this is coming from someone who's at least going to see Zach twice this week and maybe multiple times besides that this week. There's a really good argument to say, all right, it's time to move on. Regardless of what Joe says, regardless of what he believes in this moment, history of professional sports says sometimes the star player doesn't know what he doesn't know, and it's time. And that's where I was like ramping up and getting to and all of those things. Like if he has 2 years left, it's just unrealistic. You know the Bengals. I know the Bengals. There's still a lot more here when it comes to Zac Taylor, when it comes to the future of the coaching staff. We still haven't gotten into the Duke Tobin part, which I think is less surprising, but still important to note. So plenty more coming your way. Zac Taylor is under contract for the next 2 seasons. We'll continue to discuss it coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by Rocket Money. Ever feel like your money just disappears each month? It happens fast. A few subscriptions here, a Zac contract extension there, an impulse buy there, and suddenly the numbers in your bank account don't match the numbers in your head. Well, Rocket Money helps you get clarity, track every dollar, and stay in control of your finances. I've used Rocket Money, and it's great because it'll email me and it'll say, all right, well, you have this purchase coming up. This purchase is scheduled, and it might be something as simple that you see every month, like the automatic withdrawal on the mortgage, or maybe you make a big purchase and it lets you know. So one, it protects you, it keeps you secure, it keeps you in the know, and it's going to allow you to track all of your spending because managing your money shouldn't feel like a second job. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you, and having the app, well, it allows you to find times where you should be saving, how you can be saving, keeps you consistent with your financial goals. And the bill alerts are awesome, like I mentioned, and also automatically building budgets. Well, Rocket Money is going to do that for you as well. Take control of your finances and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon, rocketmoney.com/lockedon.
Zac Taylor under contract through 2027 leads us to believe that his future with the Bengals is secure. And like you said, we were planning for this show to be about the future. We talked about this on Sunday after the game. We're like, all right, we'll do our film episode. We'll talk about the future on Tuesday. We got our crossover on the Wednesday night for Thursday, and then we got our preview show for Thursday for Friday. And we recorded day ahead of is why those days might sound confusing for you. So we had our plan for this week, and then we get this news today. But when we were planning to talk about the future for this coaching staff anyway, I was listening to Zac's press conference from Monday, James, and even then, and I was already starting to lean like, this conversation might not be necessary.
Yeah.
Like we need to have it because of what they should be doing, and we'll talk about what they should be doing too. But as I was listening to that press conference, I felt like Zac was talking with a high degree of certainty about the future, about 2026, about what needs to change going forward, all these things. And now I know why, because there's no thought in his mind that he might not be the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals in 2026. Now, is there like a very, very outside chance that things go so badly in the last 3 games of the season with Joe Burrow playing quarterback that there's a change? I think there's like a very, very slim chance, but it's slimmer than any of the times we've talked about the Bengals playoff chances this year. Any of the times.
Any of them. And they were just 3%, to be clear, just to give everybody an idea of where it was at. They entered week 15 with a 3% chance, some 2.9. We rounded up. I would put it at under 1%.
I agree.
And
like things would have to go so disastrously wrong.
Yeah, like they would have to go to Miami and Tua would have to do the Heisman on them, and then they'd have to come home and Jacoby Brissett would have to do what he did in week 1 of 2024 when the Patriots came into Paycor and won, and then you'd honestly probably have to lose out. Like it would have to feel
and have like some ugly offensive performances along the way too.
Yeah. Which I'm so sick of that. Like so sick of that part. He's the head coach. I'm done with it. I'm done with the offense looks. I don't care.
I agree. But like if it looks really bad with Joe as well, like that is doubt. What I'm saying is like that adds the fuel to the fire. Like if they get shut out again with Joe Burrow at quarterback, like what are we doing?
No doubt. No, I get what you're saying. I just the offense is good, so Zac is good. No, man, you're the head coach. Yeah. I hate it. I hate that narrative. It's weird. I also wonder if that's why Joe Burrow was not. I don't think he's really come to the head coach's or the coaching staff's defense in general. I think he's just been very clear. It's up to the players. He said that last month when he was coming back and asked about the coaches, said it again on Sunday. I think that's how he's wired. But if you know that Zac's under contract for 2 more years, Al Golden, by the way, signed a 3-year contract. I know when he was hired. So he's under, like, we thought Zac and Al were kind of attached at the hip. At least I did.
Yeah.
Regardless of their contracts. Well, now they certainly are. You're not firing Al if and giving Zach another shot at another defensive coordinator if Zach's under contract for 2 more years. I think that this should have certainly been the year Zach had to show and earn an extension in 2027 and beyond. And instead, for whatever reason, they jumped the gun and they gave him that extension after the AFC Championship game. Didn't announce it, which is why no one knew, which that's on us. We should have known. Shout out to Paul for knowing. I don't think Paul's known this whole time, by the way. Shout out to him for getting that info and reporting it. And it leads to what Zach said on Monday, which this wall might as well be a wall of money, Jake. That's what I'm picturing. A money wall for Zac Taylor to block out the noise.
When I tell you there's a brick wall surrounding me and isolating me from any feelings people have about me or their views on me, I can't allow that to dictate how I operate. And so, truthfully, that doesn't affect me in any way, shape, or form. And I just keep doing my job to the best of my abilities. And this year certainly hasn't been good enough with the record we're at right now. I get that. But I'm just going to keep doing everything I can to get this team ready to play on Sunday.
On the one hand, like, yeah, man, that is your job. On the other hand, man, people are sick of hearing what Zac Taylor has to say. To his credit, he did take accountability for the record. He said that it starts and ends with him being in the place they're at. You know, he took accountability for it, and he was asked what that means. He talked about not shying away from taking responsibility for that when it comes to his conversations with players and his employer, I think. But man, like, got a brick wall around him, so he says stuff like having a brick wall around him, I guess
he can build that brick wall with that 2027 contract, baby. Woo. Gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Like, why would they do this to themselves?
I mean, I guess this is why they didn't want to extend Trey. That's a joke. That's not a serious comment. They probably have some regret though, right? Like they're hitched to these guys, and that's how they're feeling about it now. On many other teams in the NFL, and this is where like this should thing comes into it, right? I think it's very clear what we think they should be doing. Many NFL teams, they're cutting bait here. They don't care. Many NFL teams, and there's a long, I'm not even going to go through the list, but there's so many teams that go through a coach every year. And I'm glad the Bengals aren't the kind of team that goes through a new coach every year. That's its own kind of exhausting. That's its own kind of bad process. But the Bengals are the opposite end of that extreme, the opposite pole of the problem, where it's just such a long history now, James, of keeping coaches past their apparent expiry date.
Yeah, for sure. It's it better work. It better work, because right now it feels very similar to holding, like Duke Tobin made the comment, we held on to some of our Super Bowl core too long. Like clearly they're holding on to their staff too long. It also gives us some insight into the lose side of it. Like why Zach won that power struggle and why he was able to get the guys he wanted is because like he had 3 years on his deal. he had 25, 26, and 27 on his deal. They weren't letting him go then. Like, I just don't understand why. Like, let's just say Jamar Chase, he had a really good year this year and is dynamic and is going to potentially lead the NFL in receptions again and all of those things. Are they going to have a discussion about giving him another extension? You and I both know there's no way in hell that happens. For Jamar Chase, there was never a time in Zac Taylor's tenure, even in 21 and 22, where we thought he was a top 5 head coach in the league. We do no, and not we, like anyone. Ask anyone in the league, ask anyone anywhere. So how did he get that extra year? Maybe you're right. Maybe it was just something in the contract. But if it wasn't that, it's so.
I don't think that's what it is, by the way.
I don't either. How did he get it? How did he get it? We won 10 straight. I'm the best coach in franchise. And by the way, he's been awesome in the playoffs. They haven't been to the playoffs in years. Like years now. Joe Burrow has been out of the playoffs much longer than he was at LSU. Think of it that way. Like, that's brutal because a lot of people remember him from LSU from 1 year. It's been a long time. Long
And
time.
less surprising news. Doesn't sound likely the Duke Tobin's going anywhere either.
What?
That was always a bit of a long shot, but we'll discuss Duke Tobin's role in all of this, the front office's role in all of this as we continue the show on what is not a very pleasant Tuesday for us so far recording this episode. I'll say that coming up next.
Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel, and maybe you think that the Bengals are going to handle business in Miami, that Zac Taylor is going to rally the troops, go to Miami, beat up on Tua Tagovailoa. Well, of course you can get in on all the fun there. And yeah, the AFC North odds out the window, playoff odds out the window, but that doesn't mean that the fun doesn't continue with FanDuel. NFL Sundays are, well, fast. They move fast. Everything changes, and that's where FanDuel comes in. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, live bets, same game parlays, everything and anything in between, every drive, every momentum change, every highlight moment. Well, it's captured with FanDuel, and you can wager on everything from next touchdown scores to drive results, totals, and so much more. Every snap matters with FanDuel. So if you want to get right in the middle of the action this season, whether it's Bengals Dolphins on Sunday or any of the other Week 16 NFL games, go to FanDuel.com. Place your NFL live bets all season long. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel. The game moves fast. The game moves fast. And so can you with FanDuel at FanDuel.com. All right, Jake, let's continue with Duke Tobin here. And boy, oh boy. I don't think we thought he was out. I did think I left the door open for maybe they'll like pull him by his polo shirt back just a smidge from a responsibility standpoint and allow the Mike Potts who have been on this show, Steve Radisevich, who's been on this show, maybe some of these other scouts to do a bit more. And it doesn't feel like that. Paul Dehner Jr. With the report here, and I'm just going to read part of it just because it kind of tells you exactly, one, what the mindset has been for us and fans, and then how it is internally. Quote, he's, as in Duke, never seen his role challenged or exposed to this level externally. That's us. Internally, however, it's just not happening. Tobin is viewed as family in nearly the same regard as the actual Browns and Blackburns. There is zero thought. I'll repeat that. There is zero thought that his job is in jeopardy. He will have to lead the Bengals out of this drought, and ownership trusts him to do so.
Am I supposed to talk? Man, that's the no thought. Not even thinking like, hey, is this going okay? Not even thinking about it. I guess if they see him as a member of the family, that does make sense, because Duke is only part of this conversation when it comes to the front office, right? It immediately extends from Duke to the family and the way the family does business, the way they organize themselves from here's who negotiates the contract, division of labor, here's who makes decisions, here's how we make decisions, here's where we're going to step in and override the football people, meaning Duke Tobin and his staff, which I think still happens. There's still some evidence that there's bad process happening in the front office on draft night and in the free agency process. So while Duke is certainly at the center of things, Duke is at the center of things partially because the Bengals don't have a general manager and still have this division of labor between the family. Katie Blackburn primarily negotiating contracts as far as we understand it, and Duke Tobin, who's trying to make football decisions but doesn't have a budget to make those football decisions all by himself. He knows what the budget is. He can make recommendations and say, hey, this is the kind of thing that we would like to do, but he's not operating with full autonomy. Ownership is still more involved here than most of the other franchises in the NFL. Dallas is certainly an exception to this rule, where the family is highly involved in football operations in Dallas. Obviously, that's going great for them. And there's a reason that there's so many similarities, I think, despite the massive gap in franchise value and wealth between the Joneses and the Browns and Blackburns. There are similarities between these franchises. And that's the most direct parallel that I can think of. I know there are families involved in some of the other front offices out there too, but it goes from, Duke's draft decisions and draft process have left something to be desired lately. The free agent hauls since they reset when Joe was on his rookie contract have left something to be desired.
They've been awful. Yeah.
But then the family's involved too. And the big ask continues to be family step back, get a real GM in there, let somebody really run this thing from a football operations perspective and get your hands out of the pie. Be owners. Don't try to run the team as well. So like those things do go together to me when you talk about Duke. And I know that this was supposed to be a Duke segment. Inevitably, it spirals into a family segment. What do you think?
Well, you're right. You're right. And that's why I find it tough to put blame on Duke because I don't know what's him and what's not him. I think Demetrius Knight is him, right? And so draft stuff in general, I think, has been him. Free agent wise, you don't think Duke Tobin wanted to keep Jesse Bates?
Contract structure wise, same thing.
Did Duke Tobin really think that they should move on from DJ Reader? Like, did he? I don't know. I do know how certain people in the building feel about DJ, and they didn't want him to go. And so that's what's tough is the balance and placing blame. And I think people to a large extent feel the same way about Zach. And I get it. I do. The thing is, though, I don't think that will ever change. I think Katie will always handle contracts, like for the foreseeable future. I don't think that they're going to get a GM. And so what changes could they make, will they make to change their structure within the walls that they're willing to do, right? And that's how I've kind of operated. So I never really expected Duke to be gone. He's family. Was there a time, like there are people on social media blaming Duke for the Achilles Smith pick? Like that was Mike Brown. Mike Brown made all the football decisions until like 2009-ish, 2008-ish. The Jerome Simpson pick, like in that range is when things started to go toward Duke and float. But Mike Brown still signs off on Zac Taylor's future and Duke Tobin and in these big picture items. It's still going to be him making that decision, which I think is right. I don't know if I want Katie doing it. Katie's the one that's held up a lot of these negotiations, and it's been really painful and been annoying. And the contract structure part of it, which I think could really help them if they just modernized a little bit from how they structure some of these deals.
Just a little
and
bit.
So, yeah, it's a whole cluster of stuff when it comes to Duke. And because he's not available or Katie's not available, that's another factor here, because I'm not sure we're going to hear from any of them anytime soon, even though they should talk. They should talk after the season or between now and the end of the season for sure, because this was a failure by all measures. And it's not just on Zach. And I'm aware of that. You're aware of that. And internally, they need to be aware of that and should address it and be willing to own up to it as well.
But instead, where we are doesn't seem like anything's changing. And your hopes for 2026 are that this staff that's been unable to get this thing right for the last 3 years, they've had some injuries. Joe specifically has had some injuries that have made this a more difficult task. But even when you had a healthy Joe last year playing at an extremely high level, couldn't get the job done. Couldn't get to the playoffs. 4-8, 4-10. That's been the reality the last 2 years for this team. And nothing changes. How do you get to that point? What other NFL teams have these seasons back to back and get to this point?
With a franchise quarterback, not rebuilding, trying to win.
The expectations are so much higher. This is a team that for the last 2 years has had deep playoff run aspirations, preseason expectations. And there were questions about the defense for sure. But for the most part this year, the defense has been beyond the worst case of fears. Like the defense could come up all tails on the coin flips. Remember those coin flips we talked about? Most of those have come up tails. DJ Turner came up heads. That's a big one. Most of them have come up tails. And is that foreseeable? Yeah, to some degree. But this is, I think, for the most part, this season has been worse than you could have imagined. And now you want to run back the group that put this defense together and has really struggled to figure things out. I mean, you got Al Golden on Monday talking about how he's so pleased with the linebackers taking a leap after the bye. And Zac Taylor talking about, I know nobody wants to hear it, but he's talking about, he said, I know no one wants to hear it, but the defense is playing better. And he knows there's still a long way for it to go, but that's what they believe in the building right now, man. Like, and you're trusting these people and Duke Tobin to make these decisions to get this thing righted for 2026. That's what you're selling your fans on in 2026. They could surprise us. Don't get me wrong. Joe Burrow is still the quarterback. Jamar Chase is still the wide receiver. Until that's not the case, they could always make a run. They could always surprise if some other things fall into place. But that's what it feels like, is you're asking for things to fall into place and asking for a whole lot of trust for guys that haven't earned it to put them in a position for those things falling into place to fit into the puzzle pieces where they need to and actually make a total picture when those pieces fall.
Does Zac Taylor give them the best shot to win a Super Bowl? Does Duke Tobin give them the best shot? Does Katie Blackburn give them the best shot? Does her negotiating with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase when free agency is in full swing, does that give them the best shot? We know the answers. We know the answers. They didn't do squat this offseason to fix the defense, which is why a big reason why they're here. Dalton Reisner, their biggest addition free agency wise on offense, in my mind, happens right before the season starts, and it should have happened months earlier. But why didn't it? Money. The budget that would have been there had Katie negotiated or structured the contracts of T and Jamar the way she should have. So we just have too much info now. Like, you can't hide the structure. You can't hide any of it. We see it. And we're going to have plenty of discussions. This is just the beginning, Jake Liscow.
We're still in the season. There's still 3 games left.
Oh man. 3 games. Football.
As you ask those questions, does X person give the Bengals the best chance? We know the answer, and I don't think it's even being asked. Or if it is, they sure are deluding themselves. Let's wrap up there. The Bengals do continue to play football games this season. We will talk about what to watch for as the Bengals prepare to travel to Miami for their final road game of the season, a game flexed out of prime time into the 1:00 slot on Sunday. Until next time, thanks for listening to this episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. Hoo-day, and have a good one.
How hard was that hoo-day to say?
Yeah.